Hey everyone, welcome back to another video, and today I just kind of want to look over some skateboarding gimmicks. Now by skateboard gimmicks, what I mean is just stuff that you actually don't need to be able to skate, or something that tries to solve a problem that doesn't exist. I asked some of you guys on my YouTube channel, as well as the Discord server, link in the description, about some skateboard gimmicks that you could find in the world. So yeah, let's go over them. Now the first one being is going to be the curb cover. Now, initially, I really did think this was dumb. There are curbs everywhere. You can just kind of like rubber them and wax them or whatnot. But honestly, I think it serves a different audience than like slappy curb skater dudes. I really see this nothing more as just kind of like a little ledge grind box type of thing that's generally a lot more easier to like use. And by that I mean like you don't have to like build a whole ledge box to grind on. You just take this thing and put it against a curb and stuff. That being said, it's not something that I would get just because it's not what I specifically would need, since I already have a curb and all that. Plus it's $300. But for people that kind of need it, just for like again, it serves the same purpose as a little grind box. But yeah, it's just not the one for me. But it's whatever. Next one is just going to be those manual trainers called the Wheelie Pros. I think you've been seeing them a lot lately on Instagram or whatnot. This one serves no practical purpose whatsoever. I say this confidently because it's supposed to be a way to like train your manuals or whatnot, but really it just incentivizes that skater to just put all their weights onto the tail because they know that they're still going to keep rolling and that their tail isn't going to be stopping them. When really with the manuals, it's art of balance. You're training your balance to make sure you can stay on those back two wheels for as long as possible. Not to mention that the foot position is a lot more different. With that wheelie stuff, you can just put it wherever on the tail, because it doesn't matter because you're gonna keep rolling because of the little wheel. But with the actual manuals, you put your foot like in the back pocket, and that typically gives you the best area to balance the best. So yeah, that product is extremely useless. Not to mention, I don't think you can really get good or like clean ollies off that thing, just because there's not enough space between the tail and the ground anymore to snap a good ollie. I really believe that is pointless. There is no redeeming from it. If you want to learn manuals, learn them properly. Don't buy this thing. Next one is pretty infamous. It's going to be a skate trainer, which prevents your board from moving. This is a waste of money again. If you don't want your board to move, literally just take off the wheel. But really, you should be learning stuff moving, and if you're not comfortable with learning moving tricks, in my opinion, you aren't comfortable just riding the board enough. And what I would do is ride the board until you're 200% comfortable. You can start, stop, get on, get off, throw down, and get on. Maybe even learn some like reverts or power slides along the way. But yeah, if you're not comfortable riding the board, you're not going to be comfortable doing moving tricks. Moving on. Next one is those avenue suspension trucks. So yes, they're gimmicky. I don't see any practical purpose in them. That being said, if there are people that actually enjoy those trucks and it feels like it helps them skate, for that one, I'll let them have it. It kind of goes back to the same thing, like what truck is best. Some people like Ace, some people like Indy, some people like Thunder, some people like Ventures, and some people like Avenue, and they all have different qualities that caters to that person's personal preference. So in this case, if it works for someone, it works for them. Next ones are going to be rails. I think they are very obsolete. They generally don't have any practical purpose, except in some very few instances. But that being said, these are my favorite gimmick, because I do believe they help me in some instances, and plus they just add a cool factor for me. It's come to the point where I actually kind of skate worse if I don't have rails on. So it makes it a lot easier to like grab onto the board when you're doing like your grab tricks, like when you're doing airs or bonuses or whatnot, because there's like more to grab onto, but also your fingers can just hook around the rail and you can have a really nice and secure grab. And then as for some curbs, they're really hard to like board slide, but if you put on the rails, you can do rail slides really nice. That being said, so when you put rails onto your board slides are not called rail slides because you're sliding on the rails and not the board generally. But, that's just a whole nitpicky thing. They're the same thing. So yeah, I like rails. You can't take them away from me. Next one will be copers. I wouldn't say that they're a gimmick. I would say they're a response to a problem at the time that it existed. So at the time, when cobras became a thing, it was more of a practicality thing rather than a whole gimmick, because at the time there wasn't like wax or like an art of making a curb or coping like really nice and slick where you can just grind a truck. At the time, grinds weren't really a thing until copers came along. And then now with the copers, people were actually able to like grind on like concrete and stuff. Eventually it just kind of fell out of use and became obsolete as, skateboarding progressed with like wax or whatnot. But yeah, generally I just think copers, not so much of a gimmick, it was just more like at the time people needed them. Nowadays, not so much. And if someone is from that era, please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the way I understand as to why copers exist. And to be honest, I wouldn't mind trying out a set, but maybe we could do that for another video. Alright, next one is going to be about bearings. So, expensive bearings, your $150 bearings, or anything that's more than $20 to $30. I think it really depends on what type of skating you do. So if it's kind of like your flat ground type of stuff, you're fine with like stuff like normal reds, you're not really looking for speed. Just as long as that rolls and lets you do your tricks or whatnot, I think they'll be generally fine. Now personally, I do have a couple sets of expensive bearings. I have the Bones Swiss 6 and then the Bones Super Red Ceramics. And that's really because I found that before I bought those, I found that my bearings just couldn't keep up to the speed that I needed them to be, and it would generally feel consistent. Now this is coming off from a secondhand set of Swiss that my friends gave me, and these guys were just really down on their last legs. And I just found that like that more expensive bearing just feels a lot more durable and has more consistent performance for the type of skating that I do. So that's like with curbs and transition or whatnot. I don't do too much flat ground, like I can hold my own, but when I need speed and need to keep the speed, so where it doesn't slide on all the time, I do find it's worth investing in a better bearing. Maybe not so much in like the $150 or $200 range, but for me, I think the Super Red Ceramics is as high as I'm probably gonna go. And this is just relating to bones. I know there's other brands out there like Bronson and Quantum and all that. I just haven't had experience with most of them. So yeah, I really just think it depends on what type of skating you do. Alright, the next one is going to be those pro name bearings or the pro name hardware. That's just a stupid marketing tactic. They have no difference between the non-pro branded stuff, At most you just get like a different color with a pro's name on it. I just think it's a stupid marketing tactic. But, it seems to be working. That's why Bronson keeps doing it, and other hardware companies as well. Moving on to cord wheels. I think for cord wheels, it's just kind of like, it's like it works. As a concept, it works, and I go into this in my Powerflex wheels video, but I just don't think there's enough research, I guess that's the correct word, or maybe like not enough attention into the world of cord wheels. Just because a normal one-piece urethane wheel, it just works already, so it really does feel like cord wheels might be reinventing the wheel. And apparently it is a really hard thing to like try to get right without it being a bad wheel. So I think the concept is there. Again, it's in my Powerflex wheels video, which is a cord wheel, but it's not to the extent where it will become a mainstream thing. Next one will be the Ace AF1's axle nuts. Now this is a really interesting one because if you're unfamiliar with these, the axle nuts perform the same as a normal axle nut, but they're designed to also rethread the axle. So if you find yourself keeps taking off the axle nut or whatever, that axle isn't going to be like stripped or whatever, because that axle nut is going to rethread the axle every time you use the nut. And it's actually a really cool concept that actually works. That being said, I haven't had an instance where I relied on the axle nut to take off my wheel or whatnot. I just found that I don't really ruin my axles like that a lot. So yeah, it's pretty cool, but it only comes with one set, like with certain pair of trucks, not all trucks. But it's really nice that that was innovated. So LED wheels, I think they're neat, but obviously they're bad. They're just like those cheapo garbage wheels that don't really roll. And whenever I actually had to like take the bearings out of ones for someone else, that whole system would now actually make the wheels light up, which is break, because they're not designed to be taken apart like that. So it's like, again, it goes back to the cord wheels where like it's there, there's just not enough research put into it, because for this specific LED stuff, it doesn't seem worthwhile. Your average skater is going to be power sliding and then putting these wheels just through a ton of abuse. So putting a whole electrical system in there probably isn't worth it in a lot of wheel manufacturers' eyes. Not to mention it might cost more because you have good urethane, but then you put some more stuff into it. Yeah, that I can imagine that would actually cost a lot more than a normal set of wheels and probably won't sell as well. But yeah, I mean, if LED wheels would good, I would probably put those on my cruiser board. Next one is literally every variation of a skate tool. So, you know, you have your normal T tool with the 2 or 3 exo hex wrenches, and then with a screwdriver and Allen key. Then you have the other ones where it's kind of like it has a rethreader, it has a file. Some of them have can openers, or some of them are ratcheting tools. It's just a whole type of thing. Now, personally, I just think that, like, as high as you can go with the tools, you probably just need one with a rethreader, but even then, that's one you just stick at home. Now, with the ones that you bring out when you're backpack or whatever, I think the normal T tool would just do fine. Because really, you don't really need all the other extras with it. Like with the ratcheting thing, you know, it doesn't take that much effort to just reposition your hands. And then with the file, how many boards are you gripping where you need a file like that? You can just use a normal T-tool metal one. As with the can or bottle openers or whatever, you can get those pretty cheap, just as a keychain add-on. Oh, also the keychain skate tools. You know, I don't know, I feel like that's a little bit too big and like too much to put on the keychain. I just would rather stick the tool into my back pocket or a backpack or whatever. People just keep trying to reinvent the wheel. In this case, a skate tool. Next one, we're going to be talking about quick trucks, and it's a quick detach system for your trucks. And this one is very weird because I can't think of an instance where you would need to quick change your trucks like that. Now, you could make the argument that it's good for people that like need to switch between the cruiser board, like cruiser wheels, and then you know, the normal wheels. But if you think about it, that costs a lot of money. These quick detach trucks like system cost like around $100 or so. Then you have to get a new set of trucks, which is like about $50, new set of bearings, let's say $20, and then a new set of wheels, which is going to be like $30, $40. So right there, you have like a nearly $200 investment just so you can save a few seconds. But another thing I find weird is that they made a trailer for it, and it doesn't make any sort of sense, because the guy in the trailer uses the quick detach system to swap out decks. He doesn't use it to swap out the wheels or like a different set of trucks or whatnot. He uses it to swap from a zip zinger to a normal popsicle deck. And that one's really weird to me because you could just use that normal popsicle deck to skate to the park and use it for the park rather than carrying a separate deck. You know, it just didn't make sense to me. I really figured that trailer was going to show that like you can switch to like different truck and wheel system, but switching decks to cruise and skate, yeah, that one didn't make any sense to me. Just use the same board. But yeah, I honestly can't think of a practical purpose that isn't just solved by normal T-tool, you know? But yeah, that's just my opinion. Next one we're talking about is the Sure Grip Nylon Nuts. This is a roller skate thing, but I think it does work with skateboard axles as well. Yeah, this is a weird one. It's supposed to save weight, and it comes with a shield to protect your bearing. But your bearing should have a shield in it anyways, and if it doesn't, you're just setting up your board for failure. And really, axle nuts, normal ones, they're not that heavy. You can take a whole bag of them and then just throw it around all day and you'll be fine. Especially just, you know, you only have 4 axle nuts. It's really not that heavy. You gotta think to yourself, like, how much weight are you really saving? Is it really gonna make that much of a substantial difference? If you really want to save weight, you should just think about the actual other parts. Don't get indies or aces because they're the heavier trucks on the market. Get a lighter truck or a hollow version of a lighter truck. Ventures and Thunders are generally light. You know, they have hollow versions of that. Or get a skinnier or a slimmer wheel in a smaller size, not a giant wheel. That'll help you save weight as well. So yeah, there's different ways to save weight. I just feel like axle nuts, I don't know, they're already light enough. But if you truly believe that you can tell the difference, who am I to say, you know? So yeah, that was just a whole bunch of different skate gimmicks I thought I'd take a look at and give my opinion on. If you have any questions or think I missed anything, leave them in the comments below, and as always, I will see you in the next one.